Before we talk about the Egba people, before we talk about wars or kingdoms or heroes, we must understand what Olumo Rock actually is, because it is extraordinary even by the standards of nature itself. Olumo Rock is a granite in Selberg, a geological term meaning an isolated rock hill or mountain rising abruptly from a relatively flat landscape. Hundreds of millions of years ago, immense volcanic pressure, tectonic forces, and the slow cooling of magma formed these granite masses underground. Over millions of years, softer surrounding rock and soil eroded away, leaving the harder granite exposed and towering above the landscape. For many generations, the Egba people lived as subjects of the Oyo Empire, one of the most powerful political entities in West African history. The Oyo Empire at its height commanded a vast cavalry, controlled major trade routes stretching from the coast deep into the interior of West Africa, and held political authority over dozens of Yoruba and non-Yoruba peoples. The Egba experienced Oyo's power through a system of agents called the Ilaris. These were royal messengers and tax collectors sent by the Alaafin of Oyo, the supreme king, to administer the far-flung communities under his authority. Lisabi Akala was not born a king. He was a farmer, a hunter, a man of the people in the most literal sense. But Lisabi possessed something rarer and more dangerous than royal blood. He possessed a clear eye that saw the injustice around him for exactly what it was, and a will that refused to accept it. To accomplish this, he needed organization, secrecy, and extraordinary discipline. Lisabi founded what appeared to the outside world to be a simple cooperative farming society called Egba. Men from across Egba communities gathered under its banner, ostensibly to help each other with farm labor. In reality, they were being organized, trained, and bonded by a common purpose. The plan was breathtaking in its audacity. On a predetermined night, every member of Egba in every Egba village would rise simultaneously and kill the Ilaris stationed in their community. No village would move early, no village would move late. All would strike as one. The night came, and across the forests of Egba land, the Ilaris died. Myth of Oyo's invincibility. It told every subjugated people watching that resistance was possible, that organized defiance could succeed, and that the mightiest empire could be made to bleed. Historians have argued that Lisabi's uprising was among the early tremors that eventually led to the complete collapse of the Oyo Empire in the 19th century. The rising power of the Fulani jihadists from the north. The Fulani under Uthman Danfodio had established the Sokoto Caliphate, and its southern expansion put enormous pressure on Oyo's northern territories. The empire that seemed eternal was fracturing from every direction. As Oyo broke apart, it unleashed a catastrophe across Yoruba land. Armies scattered, power vacuums opened, warlords and slave raiders moved into the chaos. The Yoruba civil wars, a complex interlocking series of conflicts that would drag on for much of the 19th century, exploded across the region. The Owu War drew in the Ife, the Ijebu, and the Oyo, an alliance of forces that swept through southern Yoruba land like fire through dry grass. Town after town fell. The Egba, who had not initially been the target, found themselves swept into the catastrophe. Some Egba communities had made the mistake of allying with the Owu. Others were simply in the path of armies that had no intention of distinguishing between friend and enemy. Between 1820 and 1825, the world of Orile Egba ceased to exist. Over 150 Egba towns and villages were destroyed. Thousands of people were killed. Many thousands more were captured and sold into the Atlantic slave trade. The survivors scattered in every direction, traumatized, homeless, and desperate. It was a hunter who first brought word of the rock. While the Egba refugees sheltered in temporary camps around Ibadan and Odouna, scouts and hunters ranged ahead through the forest, searching for suitable ground, land that could be farmed, water that could be drunk, and most crucially, terrain that could be defended. One of these hunters, a man named Adagba, had already been farming near the massive granite outcroppings west of the Ogun River. 3 other hunters, Jibulu, Ose, and Olunle, were already living in the caves when Egba delegates arrived to take soil samples for divination. In 1830, Sodeke led the Egba people in a mass migration to Olumo Rock. It was not a single neat procession, but a complex movement of different groups arriving in waves. The Egba Alake, the Okeona and the Gbagora arrived first, led by Sodeke and the war chiefs Balogun Oluyole and Oluwole Agbo. The Owu refugees arrived a few years later around 1834, led by Olufakun. Imagine this scene, thousands of exhausted, traumatized people emerging from the forest into a clearing dominated by an enormous granite rock, its surfaces worn smooth with time, its crevices offering shelter, its height providing a vantage point from which any approaching enemy could be seen while still miles away. Community that grew around Olumo Rock was unlike any Egba settlement that had come before. The old Orile Egba had been a loose collection of independent villages, each managing its own affairs without central coordination. Abeokuta by necessity was different. It was a federation, multiple Egba subgroups living side by side, each maintaining its own identity, leadership and customs, but bound together by shared walls, shared enemies and shared purpose. Chief Sodeke proved himself not just a military leader, but a visionary statesman. He allocated land plots to each arriving group, settled disputes, and worked tirelessly to hold together a community that had every reason to fragment. Watchers positioned at its summit could see for miles in every direction. An approaching army, whether from Dahomey to the west or Ibadan to the northeast, could be spotted while still an hour's march away, giving the Egba time to prepare, fortify, and position their warriors. In 1832, just 2 years after the major migration, the Ijebu army moved against the Egba. This conflict, known as the Owiwi War, was the new city's first major military confrontation. If the Ijebu were a challenge and Ibadan was a rival, the Dahomey kingdom represented something altogether more terrifying. The Dahomey, based in present-day Benin Republic, had built their state on military conquest and the slave trade. Their armies included the Agoji, the legendary female warriors known to history as the Dahomey Amazons, trained, disciplined fighters who were among the most feared soldiers in West Africa. March 3, 1851, the Dahomey army arrived before Abeokuta in overwhelming force. Estimates of the attacking army run into the tens of thousands of soldiers, equipped with firearms and led by experienced commanders. The city's 18-mile walls were manned by Egba warriors. The surrounding bush was alive with movement, and rising above everything, utterly unafraid, stood Olumo Rock. What happened over the following hours would become one of the most celebrated military victories in West African history. The Egba, though outnumbered, fought with the ferocity of people defending everything they had. The city's walls held. Olumo Rock's defenders rained arrows and stones on the flanking Dahomey forces. Women climbed to the rock's summit to pass ammunition and supplies to warriors, sustaining the defense through hours of brutal combat. But in January 1843, Reverend Henry Townsend arrived in Abeokuta at the invitation of the Saros, the returning freed slaves who had maintained their connection to the city even across the Atlantic. The reception he received was extraordinary. Chief Sodeke himself, the paramount leader of the Egba, welcomed the English clergyman by placing him on his lap, a traditional Yoruba gesture of the highest honor and acceptance. The relationship was complicated from the start. The British wanted open trade routes and the suppression of the slave trade. The Egba wanted to control trade in their region and maintain their independence. There were periods of cooperation. The Egba benefited from British support against Dahomey, and British merchants brought new goods and economic opportunities. There were also periods of sharp conflict. In 1867, the Egba expelled all missionaries and European traders from Abeokuta in what is known as the Ifole, destruction of houses, a decisive assertion of Egba's sovereignty that shocked British observers and demonstrated that the city under Olumo Rock would not simply submit to external authority. In 1914, the British colonial administration absorbed the Egba United Government into the colony of Nigeria, making Abeokuta the provincial capital but ending the Egba's formal political autonomy. The Egba had maintained their independence, real or nominal, since Lisabi's rebellion in the 18th century. Now that independence was gone.
The response came in 1918 during World War I, when the Egba launched the Adubi War, an uprising against British indirect rule and the imposition of taxation. The annual Olumo Festival, held on August 8th, is the great communal act of remembrance and gratitude. On this day, the Alake of Egbaland, the paramount ruler whose full title is the Alake of Egbaland, performs sacred rites at the shrine within the rock. Within the rock complex, visitors encounter several points of profound historical and spiritual significance. Near the base of the rock lies the tomb of Chief Sani Ositoko, the most sacred trees in Yoruba tradition that is estimated to be over 250 years old. The Iroko tree, called the tree of resilience and doggedness by the Yoruba, has survived every storm, every season, and every human upheaval that has swept through Abeokuta since before the Egba even arrived. One of the most striking features for visitors climbing the ancient route to Olumo's peak is the collection of sculptures of Egba warriors that line the path. These figures are adorned with owo eyo, cowrie shells, which were the currency and symbol of wealth and divine favor in traditional Yoruba culture. Nigeria had been colonized, had fought for independence, and in 1960 had emerged as a sovereign nation. Abeokuta remained the capital of what is today Ogun State, and Olumo Rock remained at the city's geographic and spiritual center, no longer a fortress but a monument. In 1976, Olumo Rock was officially designated as a tourist site. This was a recognition long overdue that the rock was not merely a local curiosity, but a site of national and historical importance. For years, it attracted visitors who climbed its ancient, unmodified surfaces. There had been steps carved into the rock in order to assist climbers even before modern improvements, and heard its stories from local guides. When visitors arrive at the Olumo Rock Tourist Complex today, located in the Ikija area of Abeokuta near the famous Itoku Adire Market, they enter a layered experience that moves them through geological time, human history, spiritual tradition, and breathtaking natural beauty. The journey begins at the base in Lisabi Garden, with its three majestic trees, the flamboyant tree called Pansheke by the Yoruba, named for the sound its dried pods make when shaken, the neem tree, Dongoyaro, and the Igi Odan, the tree of resilience. The Egba people have an anthem, a song that speaks directly of their time under the rock and the vow that this experience will never be forgotten. The chorus, translated from Yoruba, means, "I will rejoice on top of Olumo." This is not merely a lyric, it is a theological statement. After all we have suffered, after all the deaths and the displacement and the fear, we are still here. We stand on top of the thing that protected us. We rejoice. Abeokuta today is a vibrant modern city of over 700,000 people. It is the capital of Ogun State, a significant educational and commercial center. Olumo Rock is, at its deepest level, a story about what human beings do when everything has been taken from them, when their homes are destroyed, when their people are scattered, when the world they knew no longer exists. What do? The Egba people found a rock. They climbed inside it, and under it, they ground their food.